Welcome to Praxis Core Module 4, Reading Skills, sponsored by TLC Tutoring Co. and Arkansas State University. Reading for pleasure versus reading for information. When we read for pleasure, we tend to read a text once, to get a general overview of what is happening in the story, and then to move on. Reading for information is very different because it requires close reading of a text. When you read closely, you often need to read a text more than once to gain a full understanding of what the text is saying. It may also be helpful, especially in the early stages of reading closely, to practice with paper copies of text that you can mark on and annotate. While this won't be possible on a computerized test, it is a good way to build the mental skills necessary to read closely until you are proficient. Reading comprehension. One of the most important aspects of the reading test is understanding what you read and being able to answer questions about the information in the passage. Reading comprehension is a multi-step process that requires practice. To practice effectively, it is important to understand the steps in the reading comprehension process. Steps in reading comprehension. The first step in reading comprehension is oral comprehension, or understanding the spoken word. Most children learn to understand spoken words long before they understand written words. The second step is decoding. Decoding refers to understanding that letters represent sounds and words, and having the ability to translate the letter sounds and blends into words. Fluency. Fluency is the ability to decode quickly without active effort, allowing the mental focus to shift from the process of decoding to understanding the meaning conveyed by words on the page. Comprehension. Comprehension is the ability to draw meaning from words that you read and to understand the ideas that groups of words convey. Reading for information, evaluation, and analysis. The ability to read a text and then evaluate or analyze the information it contains as compared to other text is the ultimate goal of reading comprehension. Where to start? Decoding and fluency. Begin by sitting down and reading an unfamiliar passage out loud and recording yourself reading it. Then go back and listen to the recording. If you hear frequent pauses or stops, you will know that you are struggling with reading fluency. If this is a problem, there are some incredible programs that can help you gain knowledge of word parts, letter blends, and other mechanical aspects of decoding letters. The best way to become a fluent reader is to read. Reading is no different than working out or playing a sport. The more you do it, the better you will get at doing it. Comprehension, predicting structure. Most writers follow a predictable structure. Once you understand this structure, it gives your brain a framework to help you anticipate and understand what you read. Whether an author is writing just a paragraph or an entire essay, they usually begin by stating a main idea and following up with examples, illustrations, and details that support that main idea. It is important to be able to differentiate between the main idea of an essay or paragraph and the supporting details. You'll notice in the chart to the left, an essay normally begins with a thesis or main idea. Following the thesis, you will normally have 2 to 3 major subpoints that support the thesis. Each of the major subpoints will usually be the topic sentence of your body paragraphs. From there, each body paragraph will have explanations, examples, and discussion that supports the main point of that paragraph, with each of the main points in the paragraph supporting the overall thesis of the essay. Finally, you will have a concluding paragraph in which you restate the main idea of the essay. Understanding this predictable structure makes reading comprehension much easier because you know what to look for when you approach a piece of writing. Comprehension predicting structure. Note, this is a fluid structure. You may have a problem and solution essay that only uses an introduction, 2 body paragraphs, one for the problem and one for the solution, and then a conclusion. The same basic structure will apply even with these modifications. An author will still begin with a main point or idea and follow up with explanations or examples to support that point. On the next slide, we will look at a variety of organizational strategies that authors use to share information. Remember that, regardless of the strategy used, they will follow a structure similar to the one shown here. Comprehension, organizational strategies. One of the most important aspects of reading comprehension is learning to predict how information is presented in a written text. If you are familiar with the organizational strategies authors use to set their ideas to words, then the task of understanding those ideas becomes much easier. The first and most common organizational strategy is for an author to make an assertion and then to follow that up with illustrations and evidence. In this type of passage, the author makes a statement. We usually would call this the thesis. And then the author gives evidence, illustrations, and examples to support the thesis that they've written. Another option is a discussion of a practice or analysis of a trend. In this type of passage, an author looks at the advantages and disadvantages of a particular practice or the benefits and detriments of a particular trend. Very often this will be laid out in a 4-paragraph style essay with an introduction, a paragraph about benefits, a paragraph about detriments, and a conclusion. Problem and solution is another common organizational strategy in which an author will set forth a problem and then present possible solutions. Finally, generalization and illustration. Generalization and illustration involves a general principle being presented and then illustrating through specific examples how that principle might apply in various situations. Organizational strategies continued. Another common organizational strategy is for an author to take a common point of view, belief, or idea, and then to work to refute that commonly held understanding. This type of passage looks at flaws or errors in a commonly held belief. Similarly, evaluation of a new approach is a strategy many authors will use. This passage takes a new approach to a common problem or task and evaluates the effectiveness of the approach as it compares to current methods of dealing with the same problem. Next, you have chronological and narrative organization. In this style of writing, the author creates a story or sequence of events that is based in time. Transition words. Remember that one of the most important keys to understanding text structures is to look for transition words and transition sentences. These are like your road signs. They help you understand how the different pieces of information an author is giving you relate to each other. Transition words can be especially helpful when you're struggling to determine the main idea and supporting ideas in an essay. Take a moment to review the types of transition words that you will encounter. Transition words and sentences. Transitions are the tools that we use to connect ideas in writing. Remember that your reader doesn't know what you are thinking. They only know what you say. When you present ideas, it is important that you lead your reader from one idea to the next. The type of transition word that you will use depends on the topic of your writing. Transition words. Additional information. Additional information transition words are designed to tell the reader that you are planning to give them more information about the same subject. Examples include words like also, another reason, in addition, furthermore, not only, but also, for example, and similarly. Transition words, contrast and contradiction. Contrast transition words are designed to let the reader know that you are going in a different direction. These are especially useful when you want to say that you agree with one part of a prompt, but you disagree with another. Examples include words such as however, while it may be true, although, instead, yet, and besides. Transition words, cause and effect. Cause and effect transition words are very effective tools to help you prove a point. Examples of these include if, then, due to, because, since, as a result, for this reason, and therefore. Transition words, sequential and chronological. These transitions are used to show a progression of events or actions that take place in a particular order or over a period of time. In the beginning, later in the end, first, next, last, initially, subsequently, finally, first, second, third, immediately, after that, later. Note that these are just examples and that many can be mixed and or used interchangeably. Transition words, conclusion. There are many ways to close an essay other than saying, in conclusion. Here are a few options. In the final analysis, given this information, given the situation, it is clear that, as we have seen, as has been noted, ultimately, based on the evidence presented, it is clear that. You'll notice any of these phrases bring your essay to a close without stating in conclusion. Comprehension questions. One important aspect of reading comprehension is understanding the way in which questions will be asked on the exam. Below you will see several common sentence question stems. These relate to applying information. The passage suggests something about something. This is looking for an understanding of what the passage says about a particular person, thing, or issue. In the next one, this statement helps answer which of the following questions. This question is looking to see if you understand how new information can relate to the information that is in the passage. Another way that the test will ask the same type of question says, the author would most likely agree with which of the following. The purpose of this question is to see if you understood the author's point of view. Inclusion of blank serves to blank. In this type of question, the exam is looking to see if you understand the purpose behind including particular pieces of information. All of these question stems are used to determine whether or not you understood the information in the passage and to determine whether you are able to evaluate and analyze information. Remember that this is the final step in reading comprehension. Comprehension questions. To answer these questions effectively, be sure that you have done the following things. First, identify the thesis or main points that the author is trying to make. Every essay will have a thesis, topic sentence, or main point. Identifying this is key to understanding the author's purpose and the supporting details that follow. Understand the main supporting arguments that the writer is making to support his or her point of view. After reading an essay, you should be able to clearly speak and articulate, "This is the main point, these are the main supporting details." If you can't do this, you need to go back and look at the passage again. When looking at your answer options, focus on how each option is different. Sometimes options will have very similar wording, and sometimes options will be worded very similarly to pieces from the passage. Don't let this throw you off. Focus on what each option is saying. Look for meaning, not wording, and determine whether or not each one supports or refutes what the author is saying in the passage. Main idea. Main idea questions may be phrased in a variety of ways, but they are all looking for the same thing, the main idea of the passage. These questions are usually phrased, "The passage is primarily concerned with," or some ask directly, "What is the main idea of the passage?" The main idea can usually be found in the first paragraph after the introductory material or hook that gets the reader's attention, and it is usually restated in the conclusion. The most important thing to remember on this type of question is that the wrong answers will almost always be things that are mentioned in the passage that are not the main idea. Don't choose something just because you remember seeing it in the passage. Look for the answer option that truly is the overall focus of the entire passage. Author's purpose and attitude. One of the most important skills in reading is determining why an author wrote a passage and how the author feels about the information in the passage. Beyond the test, understanding why a person wrote a piece and how they feel about the material gives you the ability to assess the author's biases and to objectively evaluate the quality of the information that the author is presenting. Author's purpose. On this slide, we will look at some of the common reasons that people write. The first is to express an opinion or point of view. In these, the author clearly states their point of view and offers reasons, examples, or illustrations to support it. Another reason people write is to describe, inform, or explain. In these essays, the author focuses on giving the reader information and presents the topic clearly and with minimal bias. Unlike the first two, an essay that is designed to argue or persuade clearly and overtly states that the goal is to change the reader's perspective on an issue. The author in these essays presents a point of view and gives reasons why this point of view is correct. They may also show why other points of view are incorrect. Often, argumentative essays will end with a call to action or activity that the author wishes the reader to do in response to what they have read. Another reason people write is to evaluate. In an evaluative essay, an author looks at the pros and cons of a particular topic or issue and explains both sides. An author may offer a final conclusion, or, in the interest of objectivity, may leave the reader to draw their own conclusion based on the information they have read. Problem and solution is another common type of essay. In these, an author presents a problem and looks at possible solutions. In some problem and solution essays, an author looks at a real-life situation and looks at what is actually being done to solve it in the present. In others, the author looks at a problem that has not yet been solved and looks at hypothetical or potential solutions. Another reason people write is for entertainment. Note that most entertaining passages will use humor to serve one of the other purposes of writing. Few passages on standardized tests will be written purely for entertainment, but all the other forms of writing may incorporate entertaining elements to help hold a reader's attention and to help persuade the reader to see the author's point of view. Author's attitude toward the subject, or tone. The author's attitude toward the subject, also called the author's tone, goes beyond simple information and takes into account how the author feels about the information being presented. Tone is usually conveyed through word choice. Remember that words have two levels of meaning, connotative and denotative. The connotative meaning of a word takes into account not only its literal meaning, but also its general usage and the feeling that a word conveys. Author's attitude toward the subject, or tone. Look at the three example sentences and consider how changing the word changes the meaning and the feeling of each sentence. A gang of juveniles stood on the sidewalk. Notice this sentence has a negative tone because of the word choice. A group of teens stood on the sidewalk. This sentence is neutral, showing neither favor nor negativity toward the group. A team of student volunteers stood on the sidewalk. Note the positive tone here. Notice that in the first sentence, the author's tone toward the group is negative because gang suggests a particular type of group, and juveniles suggest a particular type of underage person. In the second example, group and teens are neutral, where in the third, team and volunteers are positive. Remember, an author may not tell you directly what their point of view or feeling is about an issue, but you can always find it if you examine their word choice carefully. Inference. An inference is a conclusion based on textual evidence from the passage. An inference takes information in the passage and may ask the reader to extend that information or generalize it to other situations. The primary consideration with inference passages is restricting the inference to only things that can be logically and directly inferred from the passage. Inference. One of the many benefits of a test preparation program is that it allows students to gain not only content knowledge, but also confidence in their test-taking abilities. While content knowledge is a necessity, confidence is also essential to be successful on an exam. Many students report that engaging in a rigorous preparation process helps alleviate symptoms of testing anxiety. Which of the following would be a logical inference based on the passage? Students who do not do a test prep program always have more anxiety. Can I logically say that by not doing a test prep program, a student would always have more anxiety? Probably not. I don't have the data in the passage to support that inference. Students who suffer from testing anxiety may benefit from a test prep program. Do I have information in the passage to support this? I do, because the passage says that confidence is essential and that many students report an alleviation of testing anxiety with good preparation. Content knowledge is more important than confidence on a test. While this may agree with some people's personal opinion, this is not what the passage bears out. In the passage, it treats both content knowledge and confidence as equally important aspects of academic success. Confidence is more important than content knowledge on a test. Again, we don't have enough data to say that one is more or less important. What we do know is that both are important factors. After carefully reviewing all four options, we have to select B as the logical inference based on the passage. Students who suffer from testing anxiety may benefit from a test prep program. We find the textual evidence for this in the passage highlighted in yellow. Many students report that engaging in a rigorous preparation process helps alleviate symptoms of testing anxiety. Our guess was correct. So, when you're looking for an inference, be certain that you look for something that you can back up with evidence from the passage.